Whatever you do, don't look back again. Hello, everybody. Back for another movie review. And since I kind of got on the buzz with Twister, I decided to check out my library and see if I could find another movie that also dealt with tornadoes. And I actually found it. This is Into the Storm. Into the Storm is a disaster thriller film that came out back in 2014. Actually, not too far back. And basically, the plot of this film the plot is kind of sort of all over the place almost. Basically, you got a group of kids about to deal with their high school graduation, and one kid decides to film a time capsule video. And while that's going on, you get a group of storm chasers that are filming documentary style as they try to do basically what was done in Twister. And then, of course, the storm hits, the tornadoes start wreaking havoc, and before you know it, all these events basically turn into a huge epic battle for survival, more or less. So again, the plot element of the film is very eerily, I wouldn't say identical to that of Twister, but it's pretty close. In fact, you could think of these films as brother and sister movies, because that's essentially what Into the Storm is. It's basically the perfect sister film to Twister, more or less. And by the way, something I should have mentioned in the Twister video, that there actually is a sequel for Twister in development, if you can believe that. But I hate to say this, I really don't have much interest, because the fact that the sequel is debuting in theaters next year, and it's 28 years after the original Twister, so doing a sequel that many years later, I'm kind of not really on the bandwagon for that. They really need to, I mean, if there are trailers for it, if it piques my interest, I might say that. But if you think about it, Into the Storm is probably the closest we're going to get to a Twister sequel. Yeah, basically, I explained the plot of the film in a nutshell. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, again, like I said, disaster films, you really don't give a damn about the plot. All you really want to see is the chaos and the destruction, which this movie has loads of. And while Twister's runtime I saw was 113 minutes, yeah, like so, Into the Storm is only 89. But I will say, for 89 minutes, this movie is just basically an adrenaline shot to the heart. Although, it does take a bit of time to get to the actual disasters in the movie, but when it hits, it never lets up. If you thought Twister was an insane movie, Into the Storm is literally Twister on crack, more or less. In fact, that's the best way I can describe this film. It's Twister on crack. I mean, when the disaster scenes kick in, like I said, it just never lets up. The film was directed by Stephen Quayle, who had just a couple years prior to Into the Storm had come off of doing Final Destination 5, which again, like the other Final Destinations, is basically an adrenaline shot to the heart, more or less. Stephen Quayle was also he worked a lot with James Cameron in the past. I've actually mentioned in one of my videos, he actually collaborated with James Cameron in one of his documentary films, Aliens of the Deep, and he actually worked with Cameron on a couple of films. He worked with him on Titanic, and he worked with him on Avatar. So it's pretty amazing that Stephen Quayle, got a chance to direct his own little disaster flick. The movie actually has a fairly decent cast of actors. Well, as far as I know, there's only two that I'm familiar with. Richard Armitage, who plays the vice principal of the film and plays one of the key lead actors. Middle-earth fans will definitely recognize him as Thor in Oakenshield, and he looks a lot different outside the character he played in the movies. Sarah Wayne Callies, who's probably best known as Laurie from The Walking Dead. She appeared in the first 3 seasons, as far as I know of. Probably around the time I quit watching the show, because after the 3rd season, I pretty much lost interest in the show. And of course, there's even a Walking Dead reference where they mention her, 2 guys they're like in an abandoned town, and they're like, yeah, it's like a zombie apocalypse here. And then and then the camera kind of focuses on Lori, and I'm like, on her, and I'm like, holy crap, I realized that's the actress that played Lori in The Walking Dead. And hearing that zombie apocalypse reference, that was actually pretty funny. But aside from all that, this movie, like I said, it's nothing more than adrenaline-charged shot to the heart. Once the disaster kicks in, and honestly, I actually saw this, I did go to see this in the theaters when it came out, and yes, this movie was just nothing short of spectacular, to say the least. It never lets up with the action and the disaster. When it starts, it does not end. That's all I gotta say. And I like how the film is done sort of documentary style, almost like, kind of like District 9 in a way, almost. The first half of the movie is like documentary style, sort of, and the second half of the film is basically where the survival instincts kick in. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that approach. I thought this movie kind of had a bit of a found footage feel, and thankfully, though, there isn't as much shaky camera work in this movie as there was in like most other found footage movies. But the documentary style approach I really like. And I kind of liked the sort of IMAX style format the movie was shot in. Even though it says 1:8:5:1, it almost feels like it's all shot in IMAX. As I said, the movie was released in 2014 theatrically by Warner Brothers and New Line. New Line is a sister company. And unfortunately, the film was made on a slimmer budget than that of Twister. Into the Storm had a budget of around $50 million, which, from the look of the movie, I'm amazed they got away with the stuff they could do for a $50 million budgeted film. And unfortunately, the film did not fare anywhere near as well as Twister did. In the States alone, it only grossed a mere $46 million before it was pulled from the theaters. Worldwide, altogether, it made over $161 million. So, yes, the movie was profitable. It was successful financially. Critically, not so much. Unfortunately, it only carries a low 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is an absolute shame because when I look at this movie, a lot of people have also referred to the film as basically a Twister clone, if you will. But, like I said, yeah, it is like Twister in a lot of ways. I mean, you got storm chasers and you got, random people who get caught in the crossfire with the tornadoes. And yeah, by the film's end, we get the infamous F5 tornado that was also seen in Twister. And again, the chaos and the destruction just never lets up. As a friend of mine has told me, although there was somebody that told me that he wishes that the movie had been 2 hours long, had the movie had been longer. But the thing is, with its runtime of 89 minutes, yeah, it does feel like a short movie. But with all the craziness in the film, it feels way bigger than that. Those 89 minutes, with so much chaos and, adrenaline going on, by the time you get to the end credits, you can do nothing but just sit back in your seat and just breathe a massive sigh of relief like, holy wow, what did I just watch? And what did I just experience? All I gotta say about Into the Storm is basically, you just gotta see this movie. This movie is such... if you're looking for an adrenaline rush of an action disaster film, this movie has it all for you. This movie has enough scares to fill at least 10 horror movies, because once again, you're actually caught in a scenario where something like this could actually happen. That's why when I look at Twister and Into the Storm, these are actually two of the scariest disaster films I've ever seen, because these two films offer scenarios that actually could happen. Yeah, tornadoes can touch down and basically destroy cities and basically relocate your house, more or less. So, enough talk about that. Let's go and talk about the Blu-ray. Yeah, of course, Into the Storm, inside here are two discs. One is the Blu-ray, the other is the DVD. I don't think the DVD copy has any extras, but the Blu-ray obviously has everything. The movie is presented in 1:8:5:1 widescreen, so it's not in the Panavision format that Twister is in. And honestly, the image quality on the disc looks really good. A lot of good detail. And of course, given the documentary style of the movie, it really it really comes out, the picture comes out beautifully. And of course, at the same time, it has a bit of a blurriness to it, but then again, that's for the documentary reasons, to give it more of a realistic look, which I like. And yeah, the film's effects, while are not, the best I've ever seen, but still, they fit the part very well for what they were. Given the fact that this movie actually had a smaller budget than that of Twister, I will give it the benefit of the doubt. Because once again, you just want to see how much destruction that this film can throw at you. And it doesn't let up, like I said. So the video quality on the disc, I would say out of 5 stars, I'd say 4.5 at best. That's how beautiful this film looks. As for the audio, be prepared to be blown away, literally. If you thought Twister's audio track was loud, Into the Storm, all I gotta say is it's literally deafening, to say the least. The sound quality, the effects, the dialogue, all come out beautifully. And anytime a tornado touches down and things start flying apart, explosions occur, oh yeah, you're going to hear the rump. Half the time I was watching this movie, I almost felt like an actual tornado was going on outside my house. That's how loud this sucker really is. I would say for the audio, out of 5 stars, if I could give it higher than a 5, I would. Yeah, the audio, by the way, is presented in DTS 5.1. This was actually a couple years before they started introducing Dolby Atmos tracks. In fact, 2014 was the year they introduced the Dolby Atmos track, but unfortunately Into the Storm didn't get it. In fact, Transformers Age of Extinction was the first movie to be released on Blu-ray with the Dolby Atmos track. But yeah, what we got in here, the English is only in 5.1 DTS. You also have a French track and a Spanish track, along with English, French, and Spanish subtitles. So overall, yeah, the audio, like I said, solid 5 out of 5. As for the bonus features, what we get here is pretty slim. Although I do like how it's marketed on the back here. Go deeper into the storm with extreme extras! And all you get are just 3 featurettes on the making of the film. Into the Storm, Tornado Files, basically get into the scientific conditions behind destructive windstorms with famed storm chaser Reed Timmer. Titus, the ultimate storm chasing vehicle. Yeah, something I forgot to mention about the movie is the storm chasers have this tank vehicle called the Titus, which is basically this tank that can supposedly withstand high-powered winds. Barrel into the eye of destruction with this high-tech storm chaser tank that was built from an ordinary car. So basically, it's a behind-the-scenes look how they took an ordinary car and turned it into the actual tank that you see in the film, which kind of sucks that it's not even on the Blu-ray cover, nor is it on the back of the case here. It's really disappointing. Fake storms, real conditions. Drenched by rain, pummeled by winds, pelted by debris, and yanked by wires. Watch the cast recreate the effects of terrifying winds. Basically, it's how they brought the wrath of Mother Nature to life on the screen. But still, the effects the tornadoes obviously are not real, but they try to make them as real as they can. But yeah, watching the destruction happen in the film, literally, it is, like I said, crazy. And of course, the storm chaser in the film, will do basically whatever it takes to, get the real feeling of being inside a tornado. So like I said, in some ways, Into the Storm just, for a lot of people that didn't feel satisfied with Twister, I feel that Into the Storm will give them that satisfaction that they're missing. Yeah, like I said, Twister is still an adrenaline-fueled movie with plenty of great action scenes, but Into the Storm, if you feel like you were missing out with Twister, I feel Into the Storm will literally give you what you need. And all I gotta say, when it comes to the bonus features, like I said, it's really slim pickings right here. You just get 3 featurettes on the making of the film, which they're all pretty slim. I mean, they're all kind of they're probably all around, I would say somewhere around 8 to 10 minutes apiece. So there's really not much in the way of bonus material. But overall, I would say out of 5 stars, I'd probably give the extras maybe a 2 out of 5 at best. So overall, yeah, not the biggest supplemental package, but hey, I mean, yeah, this was at a time when a lot of films were starting to come out on Blu-ray with slimmer to slimmer extras. And honestly, at least Into the Storm gets a couple of things, at least. Not as feature-packed as what Twister offered, but still, the 3 featurettes kind of, overall, that's not too bad. All in all, this is actually a really solid release of a film. The video is superb. The audio is just pulse-pounding, to say the least. I'm actually shocked this film didn't get a sound nomination at the Oscars, because I feel like it should have. Because this movie is loud. Very loud. So, in conclusion, I would say if you're in the mood for a good disaster film, and if you thought, like I said, I would definitely make this a perfect follow-up. Like I said, if you were going to watch Twister, I would say Into the Storm is a perfect follow-up after Twister. And I would say is a good appetizer for the soon-to-be Twister sequel that will be coming out next year. But for now, this is probably the closest we're going to get to a Twister sequel. Literally. So, as I've said, if you're in the mood for a good, intense thriller with enough scares to fill at least 10 horror movies, Into the Storm is your cup of tea. All in all, highly, highly recommended that you check this movie out. You check this criminally underrated movie out. Like I said, the Blu-ray is actually a pretty solid release of the film. The video is great, the audio is fantastic, the extras, while slim, do serve their purpose. So all in all, this is a great release of a film and definitely worth picking up. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do more videos like this in the days to come. So until then, take care and be safe. Oh no! Not another! It's another Twister! It's another Twister!